Okay, so we're going deep today into how to teach English as a foreign language.
We are indeed.
And we've got a really fascinating source this time, the CELTA Trainer's Manual by Scott Thornbury and Peter Watkins.
It's the backbone of the Certificate in English Language Teaching to Adults, or CELTA.
Yeah, this is a qualification that really packs a punch,
Yeah.
right? Like if you see it on someone's CV, it means they've been through the ringer.
Absolutely rigorous training.
Yeah, so what we're going to do today is unpack some of the core ideas in this manual.
For anyone who's thinking about getting into teaching or just curious about effective adult education.
Yeah, we're going to look at how to understand the learners you're working with, how to really break down the language itself for teaching purposes, and how to create a dynamic and engaging classroom.
Sounds good to me. Let's dive in.
Okay, so the CELTA really puts the learners front and center right from the start, doesn't it?
It does. You're hit with this idea that every single learner who walks through your classroom door is an individual with their own story, their own motivations for being there.
Yeah, maybe they need English for their career. Maybe they want to travel the world.
Maybe they have family in another country.
Or maybe they just love learning languages.
Exactly. And all of that feeds into how they learn what their strengths are and where they might need a little extra support.
So what do you think is the most important takeaway for a new teacher from this initial focus on who the learners are?
I think it's the realization that there's no magic formula that works for everyone.
You can't just plan a lesson and assume it's going to be a hit with everyone.
Nope. You have to be adaptable. You have to read the room and adjust your approach to meet the needs of the specific group you're working with.
And it's not just the individuals in the class, right?
The context matters, too.
Yeah, the environment where the learning is taking place.
The manual talks about this a lot, right? The physical space, the resources available, the cultural background.
So a classroom in, say, rural Vietnam is going to be very different from a classroom in central London.
And those differences will have a huge impact on how you teach.
Absolutely. So how does CELTA actually prepare teachers to deal with all this diversity?
Well, one of the first things they have you do is reflect on your own learning experiences.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, they want you to think back to a time when you were learning something new, maybe a musical instrument or a new sport.
Yeah, or a new language even.
Exactly. And they ask you to analyze what made that experience successful or challenging, what helps you learn, and what held you back.
So it's all about developing empathy, putting yourself in your students' shoes.
Yeah, and alongside that, they have you observe experienced teachers in action.
Ah, so you could see those principles being put into practice.
Yeah, you get to see how experienced teachers manage the flow of a lesson, how they interact with their learners, how they deal with unexpected situations.
It's like watching a master class.
Exactly. It gives you a real-world benchmark to aspire to.
Okay, so once you've got a handle on who you're teaching, the manual then dives into the language itself.
Now, this might seem a bit strange at first because you might think, well, I speak English fluently. Why do I need to analyze it?
Yeah, I can totally see that.
But the manual makes a really important point. It says that knowing a language and being able to teach it are two very different things.
It's like the difference between being a great cook and being a great cooking teacher.
Exactly. You might be able to whip up a delicious meal without thinking twice about it.
But could you explain every step of the process to someone who's never even boiled an egg?
That's the challenge for a language teacher. You need to understand the mechanics of the language so you can explain it clearly to someone who's coming at it from a completely different perspective.
So when we talk about language analysis in the CELTA context, what are the key areas?
Well, the manual breaks it down into four main components.
Okay, hit me with them.
So you've got grammar, lexis, phonology, and discourse.
Okay, starting with grammar, let's go beyond just knowing the rules, right?
Exactly. It's not enough to just be able to conjugate verbs or recite the rules of word order.
You need to understand the why behind those rules.
Yeah. How does the grammar function? What are the different forms it can take? And how do those forms affect the meaning?
So for example, you might need to be able to explain the subtle difference between the present perfect and the past simple.
And why we might choose one over the other in a specific context.
Right. And then we've got lexis, which is basically vocabulary.
Yeah, but again, we're going deeper than just knowing the definition of a word.
What else is there to consider?
Well, you've got the form of the word, how it's spelled, what part of speech it is.
Oh, okay.
Then you've got the pronunciation, including stress patterns and individual sounds.
Because English pronunciation can be a minefield.
Yeah, it really can. And then perhaps most importantly, you've got the appropriacy of the word.
meaning whether it's formal, informal slang, technical,
You need to be able to guide your learners on which words are suitable for different situations.
because using the wrong register can lead to some awkward misunderstanding.
Absolutely. And then there's phonology, which is all about pronunciation.
Now, I think this is an area that a lot of native English speakers might take for granted.
They assume that because they speak the language naturally, their pronunciation must be perfect.
But the manual emphasizes that phonology is a crucial part of language teaching.
It's not just about individual sounds, it's about word, stress, intonation, rhythm, connected speech.
All those things that give spoken language its flow and naturalness.
And it's often the area that learners struggle with the most.
So a teacher who has a good understanding of phonology can really help their students to sound more confident and fluent,
Absolutely. And last but not least, we've got discourse.
which is how we use language in longer stretches of communication.
Yeah, it's about how sentences connect to form paragraphs and conversations and different types of texts.
So it involves understanding things like cohesion, coherence, genre conventions.
And this is important because it helps learners to communicate effectively in real-world situations.
Whether they're writing an email or giving a presentation or having a casual conversation.
Exactly. So all this language analysis might seem quite theoretical at first.
But the manual stresses that it's all in service of practical teaching
It helps you to anticipate the challenges that your learners might face.
and to plan lessons that address those challenges in a targeted and effective way.
It's about moving from just presenting language to actually facilitating learning.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding the learner and understanding the language now. How does CELTA train people to actually teach?
Well, the manual outlines a cyclical process of planning, teaching, and reflecting.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
It is, in essence, but each stage is packed with detail. So you start by defining clear learning objectives for each lesson.
What do you want your students to be able to do by the end of the session?
Then you create a detailed lesson plan that outlines the activities, the materials, the timing.
Making sure that everything flows logically and supports those learning objectives.
You then teach the lesson, putting your plan into action.
And after the lesson, you reflect on what went well, what could be improved.
And you get feedback from your tutor and your peers.
And this cycle repeats itself throughout the course.
So you're constantly learning and refining your approach.
Now, within that teaching phase, there are certain techniques that the manual highlights as being particularly effective.
Like giving clear instructions.
Yeah, that sounds pretty basic, but it's amazing how often it goes wrong.
If your instructions are confusing or ambiguous, your learners are going to be lost.
Exactly. So the manual gives you strategies for making your instructions concise and easy to understand,
Another key technique is elicitation.
which basically means drawing out information from your students rather than just telling them everything.
It's a great way to encourage active participation and to get learners thinking for themselves.
And it helps them to connect new information with what they already know.
And then there's the art of giving effective feedback.
This is such a crucial skill for any teacher.
The manual emphasizes that feedback should be specific, constructive, and timely.
It's not about just pointing out mistakes. It's about helping learners to understand why they made the mistake and how they can avoid making it again.
And it's important to deliver that feedback in a way that's encouraging and motivating.
You don't want to crush their confidence.
Exactly. And then there's the management of interaction patterns.
This is about how you organize pair work, group work, and whole class activities.
The manual highlights the benefits of using a variety of interaction patterns.
Yeah, mixing things up keeps the learners engaged.
And allows them to practice different skills.
Pair work and group work can be really valuable for building fluency and confidence.
And whole class activities can help to consolidate learning and to create a sense of community.
And the manual also emphasizes the importance of peer observation and tutor feedback.
Yeah, it's not just about teaching, it's also about watching others teach and reflecting on your own practice.
Peer observation can give you new ideas and perspectives.
And tutor feedback can help you to identify your strengths and weaknesses.
It's all part of that ongoing cycle of learning and development.
Okay, so we can't talk about teaching without talking about classroom management.
It's an essential skill for any teacher.
And the manual frames it in a really positive way. It's not just about discipline and control. It's about creating a learning environment that's positive, productive, and respectful.
It's about maximizing learning time and minimizing disruptions.
And it's about building rapport with your learners so that they feel comfortable and supported.
The manual talks a lot about the importance of teacher presence,
That's about projecting confidence and enthusiasm.
being clear and consistent in your expectations, and being able to manage your own emotions and reactions.
If you're calm and in control, your learners are more likely to be calm and focused.
Absolutely. And finally, the manual outlines the assessment process for CELTA,
It's a continuous assessment, which means that you're being assessed throughout the course.
not just on a final exam.
It involves observed teaching practice, written assignments, and the development of a teaching portfolio.
So it's a very holistic approach.
And a key part of the assessment is self-reflection,
You're constantly being asked to analyze your own teaching
to identify your strengths and weaknesses.
and to think about how you can improve.
And the tutors are there to guide you through that process.
So it's not just about passing a test. It's about becoming a reflective practitioner. So if we were to sum up our deep dive into CELTA, what would you say are the most important takeaways for someone who's thinking about becoming an English teacher?
I'd say that CELTA is a really rigorous and demanding qualification,
It's not for the faint of heart.
but it's also incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, if you're passionate about language and teaching,
And you're willing to put in the hard work.
then CELTA can give you the skills and knowledge you need to be a successful English teacher.
And even if you're not planning to become a teacher.
I think a lot of the principles we've discussed today are relevant to anyone who wants to communicate effectively.
Absolutely, because at its core, CELTA is about understanding your audience.
Crafting a clear message
Yeah.
and delivering that message in a way that's engaging and impactful.
So whether you're giving a presentation or writing a report or simply having a conversation.
The skills you learn on CELTA can help you to communicate more effectively and to achieve your goals.
I'd encourage everyone to think about how they can apply these principles in their own lives.
And I think that's a great place to leave it for today.
Until next time, happy teaching.
We're happy communicating.
Cheers to that.
Chimik.